NEM 08. Let's say two people have the same engram, the same incident involving pain and unconsciousness. This means both guys have the same reactive recordings in that period of time of unconsciousness, including the spoken words from a third person. So according to Dianetics, if they were both to run, quote unquote, that same incident in auditing, they should have the same recall of the surroundings, including the spoken words that have been said during their time of unconsciousness. Is there any such evidence you know of? Any such case where they actually say the same spoken words from the engram? Or is there any evidence that proves that this is not the case and engrams don't exist? You will find or can find claims within the world of Scientology of people saying that they ran the same incidents, right, and came up with the same recalls. But that's a matter really of remembering the hits and forgetting the misses, because no two people in the world recall the same incident the same way. It just doesn't really happen that way. Our memories don't work like that. And anyway, you're asking basically about memory here. So let me give you two answers, the Scientology answer and then the non-Scientology answer. The Scientology answer is that yes, this is completely possible because the full recall, the full memory of everything that happened is recorded perfectly in your mind. And it's really just a matter of us working it out and developing it. And remember, I think I answered a question a couple weeks ago about this, about how they develop memories in Scientology. And it's a lot in auditing. It can be a lot like developing a Polaroid picture. You work it over and work it over and work it over, and you get the memory back. And by attacking it basically through different perceptions. If you can't see, well, what do you smell? If you can't smell anything, well, what do you hear? If you can't hear anything, well, what are you aware of at all? Is there any sense of anything? You know, and you kind of try to develop it. And the claim from Hubbard is that we've all got a perfect 360-degree 3D recall memory storage pictures of everything that's ever happened to us. This doesn't happen to be true, but it's what Hubbard claims. So, were that true, then theoretically your scenario would be easy to replicate because you would just have to work over the incidents in a Dianetic auditing session to the point that people, that both people fully remembered everything that happened. And of course, if that is true, then they would both remember the same things happening with the same words. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? But then you find in the real world, this breaks down almost 100% of the time. Why? Well, because people don't remember that way. There is no mechanism in the brain for people to remember every single thing that ever happened to them. It is severe outliers, very, very rare people who can actually remember everything accurately that ever happened to them. It's actually more of it's such an outlier. It's almost like an X-Men kind of thing. Like it just doesn't happen that often. And people who can do that, often have memory tricks or memory methods that they're using. There's a memory palace, or there's different ways to describe it. And it's quite interesting. It's a very, very interesting thing. And I've gone down looking into that. But it's not how your average person uses their memory or even, stores things in their brain in terms of memory. So that being the case, the real answer to the question is no, that's not going to work out at all. Because people remember things differently, even the exact same thing. And if you want proof of this, go down to the police station and talk to some cops about, multiple reports of the same accident. You'll get different colors of car hitting different colors of car. You'll have people who, we see this over and over again, that people's perceptions are fooled and their memory is even worse because then they're having to recall the perception, and the perception might not have been accurately recorded. There's so many ways that this can mess up and that you don't get a word for word dictated memory of what actually occurred. It just has to do with neuroscience and how our memories work. I don't really want to go into more detail about it than that. I have done podcasts on this with a neuroscientist, so you can look those up. Those were, I think, this year we did that work. So, or no, sorry, not this year, last year. So anyway, so check those out because there's some good stuff there with that neuroscientist I talked to. Yeah, I don't know of any cases. And in fact, I believe in the early days of Dianetics, Hubbard was making claims that they had tested this and found it to be the case that they would get the same data from two different people. But I think the reality is that that never actually happened. Hubbard just lied about that because they couldn't get accurate, recall from two different people. In fact, the very first clear, Sonia Bianca, I think her name was, couldn't even recall the color of Hubbard's tie when she turned around. I mean, you talk about memory problems. She didn't have any kind of eidetic memory going on. So, but yet Hubbard had claimed that eidetic memory was a phenomena of clear, and that Sonia here was the very first clear. So here we go, right? And that didn't work out at all. So anyway, not the very first clear. I don't think he said that, but she was a clear, and she was supposed to be this, do this demonstration. And this was in, I think, June or July of maybe August 1950. So early on, Hubbard was trying to prove that, Dianetics actually works, but every single time they tried it, it didn't really work out at all. And in fact, it was rather humiliating. So that's what I can speak to on that point. Let me know if you have any other questions about that.